Well, in July, we were back in person for the first VLGA Leading the Agenda Forum in about 18 months. And it was great to have a room full of people who are really keen to hear about audit and risk committees and asking those questions. They just haven't been sure who to ask. Well, we assembled the panel for them. We had Katie Baldwin, Head of Internal Audit at CSIRO and an independent member on the Monash Audit and Risk Committee, Mark Dupay, CEO of Baw Shire Council, and Richard Wilson, Senior Manager from Pitcher Partners.
As an internal audit practitioner, that used to be what we would always ask people is what keeps you awake at night, because it's a great facilitator for where are the inherent risks in your business or your operations. But I've really found now that a lot of people, technically if there are things that still keep them awake at night, that's actually concerning, because I want to know why haven't they done something about it. And actually what I want to understand as an internal auditor and someone that's working in managing risk in an organisation is, why can they sleep at night? And to understand what are the things that they're relying on that enable them to sleep at night. And they become really the key controls that address the inherent risks in an organisation, that I want to understand what those controls are and want to make sure that we've got mechanisms, whether it's through our external auditors or our internal auditors, to really confirm that those controls are working, because that's what I'm relying on in order to be able to sleep at night.
So audit committees have changed over time, really moving from audit committees to risk committees to being almost audit, risk and compliance committees. Local government is really quite a complex business. It almost represents every sector of society in one organisation. And so what you then have is a lot of risks, a lot of compliance obligations, and therefore the burden on audit committee members is greater. So their scope of mandate has increased, and therefore the professionalism and the experience of audit committee members has certainly expanded.
A good organisation has to have very strong commitment to the audit committee process, because in our situation, for example, we have all of the executive, all of our senior executive leadership team attend every audit committee meeting, as do our councillors and importantly our independent members who bring expertise and transparency.
Councils can't quite get their head around the concept of risk appetite, because technically they want to sit on that very, very risk adverse piece of the spectrum, whereas I think corporates are now in their risk management frameworks are mature enough to actually be able to say being completely adverse to risk may not be the right way to achieve our objectives. And that's where I think, the corporates are pushing the boundaries on that and moving their tolerance or appetite away from zero tolerance. And I think that's where council sort of needs to go and be able to really identify where are the areas where they are prepared to move that appetite. And for some things, potentially, health and safety and reputational damage, you've got to sit quite, close to the spectrum of zero tolerance, but it's finding that balance and engaging in the discussions.
So the challenges faced by new audit committee members, particularly councillors, is they need to get their head around the risk and compliance obligations of the organisation, which are many and varied. What I'd encourage them to do is really ask the questions, really challenge management on how they identify risk, how they identify compliance obligations, and how they manage those obligations. What we find is that audit committee members tend to hold back initially in audit committee meetings. What I'd ask them to do and probably encourage them to do is to seek briefings from the risk and assurance teams within council and also with Pitcher Partners if they're the providers of internal audit services, because that gives them an understanding of how risks, compliance obligations and assurance processes actually come together.
The first 6 months of a brand new council is a whirlwind, particularly for first term councillors. So the audit committee provides them with some assurance that the key organisational risks are being managed, and then over time they can start to ingratiate themselves into the workings and processes of how the organisation deals with risk. And I would encourage all first term councillors to attend an audit committee meeting in their first 6 months.
It's been a great leading the agenda discussion on audit and risk committees, and great to have people together for that conversation. Now we look forward to the next session. It's coming up in September and the topic will be treaty. If you'd like to find out more and be part of that, check out the vlga.org.au events page, and we look forward to seeing you at a future Leading the Agenda forum from the VLGA.